Going to be talking about absolute value inequalities, uh, but we're going to be, instead of doing the closed dot and the graphs and stuff, we'll still do some of it, but I'm going to show you another way of describing a set of numbers. All right. So this is called interval notation. When you've got two parts and brackets or parentheses. Right? So the parentheses, if it's a parentheses on that number, that means that it does not include that number. All right, it's kind of like the open dot. But if it's a bracket, it means it does include it. So that would be kind of like your closed dots. All right, and so you'll notice here on infinity, those will always be parentheses, whether it's positive infinity or negative infinity, because there's no way to actually include infinity. All right? There's no way to actually get there. So what this means is it means all the numbers. So I'm not going to write it out, but it means all numbers from -4, I guess I can say that, from -4 up to +3. Okay, and it'll always be the smaller thing going first and then the bigger thing going second. All right, so in this set, we're talking about all numbers from +8 to +infinity. All right. So for this, if I were going to graph this, the graph of it would be, an open dot at -4, and that can be 0, and a closed dot at +3. So we're talking about all of the numbers from -4 to +3. All right. For this one, let's see, it's got a bracket at 8, so it's going to be a closed dot at 8. So we're talking about all the numbers from 8 on to infinity. All right, so this one would just be an arrow that goes on forever in one direction. All right, let's give you a couple of graphs here, and we're just going to write the interval notation that corresponds to this. So this is the graph of all numbers from -3 to +5. So the interval notation would be bracket at -3 because it's a closed dot, comma, +5, and bracket it at 5 as well. All right, so that represents all numbers from -3 to +5. And brackets because we're actually including those endpoints. This one's a trickier one. We're going to do it in two halves. Let's do this half first. So this is the graph of all numbers from 2 to infinity, but we're not including the number 2. All right, so from 2 to infinity, and we're not including the number 2, so it gets a parentheses as well. All right, for this one, it's all numbers that are before -3, but we want to say that using interval notation, and we want to put the smallest one first, the smaller thing first. Well, negative infinity comes way before -3, so this is going to be from negative infinity up to -3, and we are including -3. All right, so from negative infinity to -3. Now, if you wanted to describe this graph just as one statement, you would want to connect these two sets of interval notation or sets of numbers. So to do that, all you do is you put a union symbol in between. So you would say 2 to infinity, and you'd put a union symbol. It's just a big U. That's all it is. All right. So this represents all the numbers from negative infinity to -3, as well as from 2 to infinity, but not including 2. Right, got one more types here. So here I'm going to give you the compound inequality version, and we're going to rewrite it in interval notation. So you could graph this. You could graph this first and then use that. Let's see, but without doing that, we want to describe all the numbers that are less than 7 and greater than or equal to 2. All right, so 2 and 7. Okay, and we've got an open dot at 7, so it's going to be parentheses, and a closed dot at 2, so it's going to be a bracket. So this describes those numbers. They're greater than or equal to 2, and they are less than 7. All right. I think it's going to be easier. I think it's going to be easier if we just actually graph these, instead of trying to just word them out like that. So for this one, we want less than 5. So open dot at 5, going to the left. And we want greater than or equal to 10. So closed dot at 10 and greater than 10. So this is 2 sets of numbers again. So for this half, it's going to be 10 to infinity. And for this half, it's going to be negative infinity up to 5. But we're not going to include 5, so we'll use the parentheses. All right, and then we're going to union those 2 sets together. All right, if this video doesn't, if it didn't work for you, there's a video at the bottom of the module. I think it's by Organic Chemistry Tutor, but watch his video, and he talks about interval notation as well. All right.